Imagine you stand ankle-deep on a clay embankment outside Angkor in 1431 AD, and the water under your feet shoves like a living animal. You hear a temple bell hammering too fast. You smell rot. You see debris spin in the current. This is not supposed to happen. If the canal goes wild, the city starves before any enemy even arrives. You are not a king. You are not a general. You are a keeper of water, one of the thousands whose hands keep the empire's throat open. The canal beneath your feet is supposed to be calm, measured, obedient. But it bucks. It drags broken reeds, snapped branches, and a dead pig that bumps the bank and rolls, belly up, in the brown flow. That pig is a message. Upstream damage. A failing gate. A breach chewing at the system. A runner crashes through the reeds and skids into the mud beside you. His chest jerks like he swallows fire. His face looks dusted with ash, but it is dried silt and panic. Ayutthaya scouts at the east road, he blurts. And the baray is rising. You feel the sentence in your gut, heavy as a stone. Enemy eyes on the road. Water pressure on the dam. 2 threats, 1 body. Therefore there is no clean choice, only faster decisions. You sprint along the embankment. Your sandals slap wet clay and almost slide. You pass farmers dragging baskets of silt away from a channel mouth. Their faces hollow. Their eyes sharp with a new kind of anger. They do not bow anymore. Hunger changes posture. Therefore respect leaks out of the world as surely as water leaks out of a cracked bank. Ahead, a sluice frame shakes as if something large pushes from the other side. The wooden posts creak. The pegs flex. The waterline sits a finger's width below the lip. You see it, that tiny measurement, and it feels like a knife held at your throat. If it overtops, it slices the dam. If it breaks, it does not just flood homes. This flood drains the machine that feeds Angkor. Myth whispers one story, a city swallowed by jungle, abandoned overnight. But you live another story, loud and wet and exhausted. A city held together by repairs, by routines, by fear. The repairs fall behind. The routines break. The fear spreads. A shout goes up from the gate crew. Someone points at a seam in the clay where water beads like sweat. You drop to your knees and press your palm against it. The clay feels cold, slick, wrong. The water pushes through in a thread, and the thread is patient. It does not need speed. It needs time. Someone behind you yells, "Patch it." But patching is never just patching. Therefore you glance down the line of the embankment and see 10 other places that beg for hands. Hands are the true currency here. Not gold. Not titles. Hands. A horn sounds far off, low, throaty. It is not from your side. Your skin tightens. Maybe it is a hunting call. Maybe it is war. You do not know. Fog of war hangs in the sound itself. The note carries, but the meaning stays hidden. You shove palm fiber into the seam. You slam a wooden wedge with a mallet. The wedge bites, but the water fights back. It sprays your face and tastes like dirt and decay. The seam quiets for a moment. Therefore your heart tries to believe you win. But the canal is still too high. The current still shoulders the bank. A second runner arrives, barefoot, legs striped with mud. The court calls labor to the temple precinct, he gasps. The priests demand the wall repaired. You stare at him, and the world narrows to that absurd sentence. The court demands stones raised while water threatens to erase the ground under the stones. But orders are orders, and orders come with whips. Your crew mutters the forbidden thought under breath. Stone gods do not drink. People do. The words are poison, because once spoken, they cannot be unsaid. The canal surges again. Therefore there is no time for piety, only survival. You wave the runner away and grab a shovel. You dig like your lungs belong to the city. Days turn into a season, but time does not feel like a calendar. It feels like a throat that never fully swallows. For seasons, the monsoon arrives late. The sky stays hard and bright. The baray shrinks. The canals run thin. You walk into the baray bed and your footprints remain. They do not soften. They do not blur. They stay like accusations in the dust. That is wrong. Water is supposed to erase evidence. The elders argue about spirits. They burn incense and chant at shrines. But the incense does not turn into rain. Therefore the argument moves from prayer to blame. Someone says the king offends the ancestors. Someone says the people forget the rituals. Someone says the foreigners bring bad luck. None of it fills a canal. You and your crew dredge anyway. You wade into a channel with water only to your shins, and you scoop out silt that should never be here. Sand where clean flow should pass. Your hands blister. Your nails turn black. The silt packs under them like a secret. A foreman shouts for speed. His voice cracks. He sounds like the wood posts in the sluice when they strain. Therefore you dig faster, but the channel keeps choking. You plant a pole into the bottom to test depth. It sinks too easily. Too soft. Too deep. The silt layer is thick. That means the system does not flush clean. The machine ages. Not from one invasion. Not from one curse. But from a rhythm that turns cruel. Dry seasons starve flow, wet seasons dump debris, and maintenance cannot keep up. The city is not a single monument. The city is a pattern of water obeying boundaries. Therefore, when the boundaries fail, everything fails together. The sky finally breaks its promise, but it does so like punishment. Rain arrives as a roar on roofs, a drumline on leaves, a hammer on exposed earth. Water hits hardened, cracked ground and runs off all at once, fast, dirty, violent. You look at the canal and it is no longer a calm vein. It is a weapon. It carries silt like a battering ram. It slams into bends. It chews at banks. It pulls at every weak peg you hammered in the dry months. You rush with your crew to a known weak point. The embankment shivers under your feet. Someone slips and goes down, face first into brown water. Hands yank him out, coughing, spitting grit. No one laughs. Therefore, the fear stays sharp. You patch one breach and another opens. You shove palm logs into gaps. You hammer wooden pins until your wrists scream. The pinheads mushroom under the mallet. Your fingers sting. You do not sleep. You doze standing, leaning on a shovel, and wake with your jaw clenched. A messenger arrives soaked to the bone. He screams over the rain. The east road reports smoke. Houses burn. Maybe it is Ayutthaya raiders. Maybe it is villagers burning fields because the harvest fails. You cannot verify. Therefore, every fire becomes an enemy in the mind. At night, the horizon flickers. You see it between temple silhouettes. A red pulse. A second pulse. Then darkness. The scouts return with conflicting counts. Some say a few thousand enemy. Others swear it is an ocean of spears. You cannot count what you cannot see. You only feel the pressure, like water behind a wall. Therefore, politics tightens. The court whispers about defenses. The nobles fight over who owes labor to whom. The priests demand ceremonies. The engineers demand bodies with shovels. Bodies are finite. A conscription party drags young men away from fields to carry stone. Mothers shout. Fathers grab sticks. Soldiers raise spears. Therefore, the city's own nerves begin to fight its own muscles. You stand in the middle of this and feel small, but the water does not care about size. The water cares about slope and volume and time. Therefore, you return to the canal mouth before dawn, because dawn is not hope, dawn is inspection. A crack appears along a clay wall near a spillway. At first, it looks like a hairline, a simple dryness line. But water purls along it. The pearls merge. They crawl. Therefore, the crack becomes a vein, and the wall becomes flesh. A guard stands nearby with a spear. He looks at you with pleading eyes, as if a shovel can stop war. He says, if Ayutthaya comes, can this water hold? You open your mouth, but certainty does not come out. Therefore, you answer with action. You slap more clay into the crack. You pack it with fiber. You stamp it down with your heel. The guard nods, but his grip tightens on the spear. His hands shake. He is not afraid of the enemy alone. He is afraid of the earth turning liquid under him. The rain eases for a day. Therefore, the baray rises. Everyone exhales. But the rise is not clean. It is heavy with silt. It pushes against old structures, older than living memory. The posts groan. The gate frame swell. The ropes fray. You see a group of monks cross a causeway, robes darkened by damp. Their lips move in prayer. But prayer does not measure water level. Therefore, your eyes stay on the marker stakes. You notice something else too. The crews rotate slower. Fewer hands arrive. Men disappear. Some go to the east road to hold a spear. Some return to their villages because their children cry for food. Some simply do not return at all. Therefore, the maintenance debt grows like mold in a closed jar. Now the day of the alarm arrives, the worst possible day. Enemy drums thud in the distance, uneven and taunting. Thunder answers overhead. The baray is rising and the east road is falling. A sentry yells from a watch platform, movement in the trees. Someone else yells, water over marker 3. Two crises at once. Your mind tries to split, but your body cannot. You run toward the main sluice. Men with spears run beside you, but their eyes keep sliding to the water. Because they know the truth, water kills more surely than any blade. A blade stops at flesh. Water eats the ground itself. You reach the gate. The wooden frame is huge, blackened by age, swollen by wet. It groans with every surge. The lever stands upright like a judge's finger. A crack snakes along the clay embankment, thin as a fingernail, then widening as the water works it. You taste clay grit in your teeth. You smell wet rot from uprooted plants. Someone shouts, "Hold it shut. Save the reservoir for the siege." Another screams, "Open it now or the dam goes." Conflicting orders, like conflicting scout reports. You do not have certainty. You have seconds. The defenders look at the tree line. The water workers look at the crack. No one looks at the sky because the sky offers no mercy. You grab the lever. It is slick and heavy. Your fingers slip. Your shoulder burns as you set your weight. The lever resists like it resents you. Therefore, you feel the terrifying truth. The whole empire compresses into this one motion. Not a royal decree. Not a battle plan. A lever wet under your hand. The crack widens. The waterline creeps. It kisses the lip of the spillway. Then it touches your toes, cold, immediate, final. This is not a battle of swords. This is a battle of thresholds. If you open the gate, the release surge floods lower fields and roads. Maybe the enemy slows in mud. Maybe your own people drown. If you keep it shut, the pressure builds until the embankment fails and the breach becomes uncontrolled. It tears channels apart. It leaves Angkor without its circulatory system. You hear shouting behind you, somebody calling your name or calling a curse, but the words drown under the roar of water. Therefore, the decision becomes pure physics. You pull. The gate shudders. The joints squeal. For a heartbeat, it feels like the machine decides whether you deserve to keep it. Then the wood gives. Water explodes through, white, furious. The canal becomes a charging beast. It rips reeds. It slams against banks. It spins debris into whirlpools. Your crew staggers back, arms up, eyes wide. Downstream, a distant scream rises, thin, human, swallowed by the flood noise. You flinch, but the lever stays in your hands. Therefore, the guilt arrives before any verdict. The baray begins to drop. The pressure on the embankment eases a fraction. The crack stops widening, at least for now. You do not know if the stop means survival or only delay. And through it all, far off, war horns answer. The enemy does not need to break walls if water breaks first. A defender points at the east road and shouts, "They come." But does they mean a scouting party or a full assault? You cannot tell. The trees hide shapes. The rain hides footsteps. Therefore, fear fills the missing information. Spears lift. Bows draw. You smell oiled wood and sweat. A man beside you whispers a prayer that sounds more like bargaining. But the flood you unleash already changes the battlefield. The lower ground turns to sucking mud. The road edge collapses in spots. A cartwheel sinks. A horse screams. Someone curses. Therefore, the water becomes both shield and executioner. The fighting starts in fragments, shouts, a flash of metal, a body stumbling. You see a figure in strange armor dart between trees. You see an arrow stick into a post, vibrating. You cannot count enemies, only angles of threat. A spear thrusts toward you from the chaos. You jerk back and the point misses, slicing air. Your heart pounds. But your hands do not hold a spear. They hold the residue of the lever, the memory of that motion. Therefore, the strangest realization hits. Even in war, the true front line is water management. The rain slackens. The enemy noise drifts away, or maybe it circles. You cannot know. At last, the immediate crisis quiets. The gate stands open. The water continues to rush, but not as violently. Your legs shake from strain. When the storm passes, you walk the damage. You do not stroll. You hunt for failures like a tracker hunts blood. The embankment is scarred. The canal is clogged with fresh silt. A spillway bites into its own foundation, undermined by the very force it tries to control. You find a snapped wooden peg half buried in muck and pull it free. It is small. It fits in your palm. It smells of wet wood and mold. You hold it like a murder weapon. So small. So deadly. Downstream, you find fields underwater. You find a collapsed hut. You see a cooking pot floating upside down like a dead turtle. A woman stands in the doorway of nothing, staring at the water where her floor should be. Her face is blank because grief empties expression. You want to explain, to justify, to say the gate saves the reservoir saves the city. But explanations do not rebuild a wall. Therefore, you keep walking. At a canal junction, the water now runs wrong. It eddies where it should glide. It deposits silt in a new fan. The geometry of the system shifts. Not dramatically, just enough to ruin timing. A senior worker kneels and scoops a handful of sediment. He rubs it between fingers, eyes narrowed. Too much, he murmurs. Too thick. You see it too. The system cannot flush. The lifeblood turns to sludge. People whisper the old myth, the enemy is too strong. The city falls because foreign spears overrun it. That story feels clean. It offers someone to hate. But you watch the deeper truth unfold in front of your boots. The machine that makes Angkor possible is no longer predictable. Drought empties it. Floods overload it. War interrupts repairs. Politics steals labor. The system does not fail once. It fails repeatedly, like a heart stuttering. Therefore, the collapse does not arrive like a single scream. It arrives like 1,000 coughs. In the months and years after 1431 AD, the center of gravity shifts. The great city does not vanish in one night, but it loses the ability to command water at scale. Without controlled water, rice falters. You see seedlings yellow. You see paddies crack. You see rats bold enough to run in daylight because grain stores thin. Without rice, labor disappears. You feel it in the empty places along the embankment where hands should be. You call for crews and fewer answer. Without labor, canals choke. You watch weeds root in silt banks. You watch a minor channel become a swamp. Therefore, every small failure breeds the next. The loop tightens. A noble procession rolls past on a raised causeway, guards flanking, banners damp. The noble's face is calm, but calm can be ignorance or denial. The guard's eyes dart because they sense the city's mood curdle. A hungry man steps too close to the road and a guard jabs him back with a spear haft. The hungry man does not bow. He glares. Therefore, the social order strains like a rope in floodwater. Temple work continues in pockets, stone hauled, carvings chipped, because institutions resist admitting weakness. But the stones sit above a ground that starts to betray them. A foundation shifts. A wall cracks. A carving chips. Not because gods leave, but because water control falters. At night, the sounds of the city change. Fewer songs. More arguments. More dogs barking at nothing. You lie down and listen to water in a channel that should be quiet, and you hear it gurgle, clogged, sick. You think of the lever again and again, because that lever is not just a lever. It is the moment a supercity reveals its dependence on ordinary hands. Therefore, the myth of sudden disappearance feels insulting. This place does not vanish. It bleeds out. Now the dust settles, if dust can exist in a land of mud. You stand on a broken bank and look at the water as it runs uncertain, no longer obedient. You realize the empire is never only temples. It is infrastructure, maintained by humans, vulnerable to climate volatility. You feel that vulnerability like a weight on the chest. Because the water is not merely water. It is food. It is legitimacy. It is the difference between order and panic. The modern world loves myths of sudden collapse. But you learn the scarier story. Systems die by maintenance, debt plus climate whiplash plus conflict, until one ordinary lever becomes a life-or-death decision. You walk to the edge of the canal where the bank crumbles under a toe. You pull back before it gives. That flake of earth is the whole lesson. Strength is not what stands tallest. Strength is what holds steady under stress. You see a child nearby, barefoot, chasing a floating leaf as if it is a boat. The child laughs once, then stops when an adult shouts. Even play becomes cautious. Therefore, innocence narrows. The verdict arrives not as an announcement, but as absence. Fewer boats on the water. Fewer baskets of rice. Fewer repair crews. The city's pulse fades. Count the cost in the things you can touch. A snapped peg. A flooded field. A cracked canal wall. A lever slick with mud. A stomach that hurts all day. A farmer who no longer bows. A guard who looks at his own city like it is enemy territory. Count the cost in the things you cannot touch. Trust. Predictability. The belief that the next season behaves like the last. Therefore, Angkor's power shrinks not because the temples lose beauty, but because the water loses obedience. Now the mirror turns toward the present, and the reflection is uncomfortable. You live in a world that also runs on hidden channels, pipes, grids, ports, code, supply lines. You rarely see them when they work. You only notice when they fail. You see the same human habit to fund monuments, prestige, spectacle, while the maintenance crews are short-handed, underpaid, ignored. You feel the same danger, climate whiplash that swings between too little and too much, drought and flood, heat and storm. But the danger does not arrive alone. It arrives with politics, with conflict, with distracted leadership, with people forced to choose between immediate survival and long-term upkeep. Therefore, the question is not whether collapse looks dramatic. The question is whether the lever is already in your hands and nobody admits it. And that is the case file carried out of the jungle. When water becomes uncertain, every society becomes a siege. So the legacy question settles into your chest, uncomfortably quiet. Imagine you stand at a modern gate, maybe not wood and rope, but steel and sensors, budgets and permits, boats and headlines. You see the numbers rising. You feel the pressure behind the wall. You hear distant drums, conflict, misinformation, panic. But the order coming from above is confused. One voice screams, "Save resources for the crisis ahead." Another screams, "Release now or the whole system breaks." You do not have certainty. You have seconds. Do you see the pattern? The final question is not about Angkor. It is about you. When the machine that feeds your world begins to stutter, when maintenance falls behind, when climate swings harder, when conflict steals attention, what do you protect first? The symbol of greatness or the quiet infrastructure that keeps people alive?